Paul's top five, and here we go. Jason Scheer covers Arizona, part of the Pac-12, earlier today. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know the smoke surrounding Colorado is at an all-time high. Well, of course, this led to, my God, Colorado's about to make a decision. They're about to bolt for the Big 12. It all depends on who you listen to, who you trust. But that was an intriguing tweet by somebody who covers Arizona and has also been somebody that has aboard Wildcat Authority with some of the smoke that he's talking about being a part of the message boards there at Wildcat Authority.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and the more the deadline gets pushed, the more that it's kind of curious to me. I still don't think anything's going to happen, but the more the deadline for the TV deal gets pushed into the summer, I mean, that's when all this stuff happens, right? That's when, USC and UCLA left. That's when Texas and OU left, and that's when the Big Ten last August got their TV deal. So all those things, they happen in the summer. So the closer you get to the summer, the more nerve-wracking it gets because that seems to be the calendar for these things happening. Now, I guess we'll see what happens when it happens, but I'm curious to see what Jason means about the smoke around Colorado moving, like what exactly that is, or it's just people in that fan base that are getting antsy.
Well, he didn't say moving. He just said there's smoke about Colorado.
No, that's what it exactly says.
Is that what he said? Is that the quote right there? Oh, Colorado moving at an all-time high. I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Actually, I just knew it was about Colorado possibly looking. I didn't see the word moving, but that, of course, makes a hell of a lot of sense. Craig?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, just like all the other, tidbits and pieces of, nuggets that have been dropped by various people over the last few months have been interesting. Just kind of put it all in a pile and, make of it what kind of a recipe you want to. It's sort of what I've been doing all along. I know others do it differently. They take everything at its maximum value or word, and I just kind of, digest it and – yeah, I still remain more leaning towards we'll see what happens than getting any sort of, hopes up. And I mean, like, I don't have my hopes up for a move, but like, I don't, it's even with that piece or any of the recent pieces really start to get the hopes going that, somehow there's going to be this monumental shift. But I'll tell you this, like everything that keeps, being reported or everything that keeps being insinuated, I mean, it does lean more towards the sowing of doubt than, having more confidence that this is all going to be okay and dandy. I mean, at this point, we were a month ago talking about an actual school president saying that it would be a layup to pass the Big 12 in their rights. And now here we are, and we're talking about Ion TV and the CW and how many games they could carry and whether or not they're actually even truly interested or not, or what kind of slice of the pie they might get. And all the while, there's rumors about these other networks or companies, and, some of that's clearly been some blustering and bluffing, and some of that's been, I guess, legitimate. But here we are, and I know that there's no timetable except for the fact that they start to draw closer and closer to the summer, which draws closer and closer to being a year out. I understand the Big Ten did their deal very late, but this is not the same situation by any stretch of the imagination. I saw that comparison brought up a couple of times while I was gone, and the difference is that they were having to turn people away. This is now turning into, like, who wants to be at the door to begin with, and we've seen some fall to the wayside who could re-engage, but it's pretty clear to me that, any type of I guess, idea that they could somehow, like, drive the market price up or, leak something to get others like sharks in the water to want to, get all in on the pack. I mean, none of that seems to be working because we're at a more dire place than it seems like it's been the entire time in terms of the number of options at their disposal. So it seems like there's a deal they could take. It's just not one that, as I'm sure you all have talked about, is all that enticing. So remains to be seen, obviously, where we're headed with this. But, I'm still on hey, they stick together and they find a deal and all of that. But my confidence level in them actually, going up to the Big 12's numbers and being heavily competitive in that regard, I'm starting to have some doubts about that for sure.
Yeah, and again, it's just a part of the deal. And Jason Scheer, who covers Arizona, also somebody just mentioned in the chat room, he put out a note, something about loose lips sink ships. whatever that might be. But Colorado, I'll tell you this, Brian Etheridge, who's one of the owners of our site, one of the partners, has really, when everyone has looked at, if in fact, and we are of all of the opinion, let's just, so we're on the record again, Craig just said how he thought. We think in the end, I said that today on a podcast with Josh Neighbors, who covers the Big 12, that I still think in the end, whatever's in my gut, that somehow they kick the can down the road, they'll be okay for at least the next 3 years or so. Paul, is that what your thoughts are? Do you think there's going to be a breakup?
Yeah, because I think there's more interest in a couple of parties staying together than there are in it breaking apart. Now, again, the longer this draws out, the less likely I feel about that. But yeah, I think that right now, it's just there's only certain conditions that would be right for a move, and I don't think that those are good for everyone, because if everybody's not going to the Big 12, or everybody's not going to one spot. So if a few teams are going to one spot, then where are the others going to go? And Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal in particular are not just going to go to the Mountain West because they have no other options. They have to wait for that option to be open. So I think you're probably looking at the next TV deal, because so much is going to change between now and then. I mean, a lot's changed in the last 3 years. A lot's going to change in the next 5, because the playoff might change twice, because we're going to have 2 years of the first wave of them doing it with this kind of addendum to the old contract, and then you would think that they'll work out some bugs or things that they perceive to be bugs that they don't like, and then change it again. So then you're going to have to morph what you do and what your organizational strategy is as a conference and at school and all that. So yeah, I think that there's another shift coming. I just don't think right now is completely right. But if I'm looking around trying to plant the field for realignment, the soil looks good, but it's just not ready.
Well, and it also could open up that soil elsewhere too, including whatever happens in the future with the Big 12 or other conferences not named the SEC and Big 10. That's truth. That's legitimate to at least say that. So that's Jason Scheer from earlier.
If the Big 12 had $60 million per team per year, then I'd say the Pac's in super trouble, because I don't see how they would come even close. But I think with the Big 12 making 40 something, that it seems like they could at least reasonably get within arm's length of that. Now, I know that that's not covering the exposure piece, and we've talked about all this ad nauseum. The exposure piece is starting to become more and more foggy as they go from seemingly one outfit to another, and we can kind of start crossing some of these off. I know John Alrand had the report that the CW is not involved, and then today Dennis Dodd saying the CW might have a sliver of the package, and so I don't know where that stands on that, but I do know Alrand had said that they were basically ruled out. So I mean, that exposure piece is starting to be a little bit more of a question mark, but yeah, I don't think it's they're going to be offered 15 per. I mean, that would be, obviously something where you go, okay, that's less than half the money. Then that would be something you go, okay, even with all the other academic money and all those types of things, that would be a pretty dramatic drop off. But that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case, so I'm still sticking with that. But yeah, it's as the days go by, and I know that there's chaos agents and all of that, but I mean, facts are facts. And when you're talking about this network's not going to carry it, and this one's not going to carry it, and this one's not going to carry it, and the picture starts becoming at least somewhat clearer, I mean, I think to have said over these last few months there's nothing to it is complete BS. And there clearly is, some struggles going on behind the scenes. But yeah, whether it's enough, I still don't believe that.
The CW was something